got it as the truck was driving in with the vaccines, and before they could get into the pharmacy, is this on? Do we know? That's what they say not to do with the sound system, don't they? Not the button. The glass is the button. Good evening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us on our second in our series of Hear My Story. It is a true gift to come together, to listen, to learn, to experience, and at some level come to know. Derry, who is our guide through tonight, and I had the privilege of sharing the last hour or so with Steve Wewer and with Perry Clark, who the two together heading up Try. And what I can say is all that I thought about them beforehand, which was impressed, and thinking what they do is amazing. What I didn't realize until then is they are truly two of the most faithfully sacrificial people that you'll encounter. That how much they invested of self without anything in return for years. And the important part isn't that they did that, but it's a reminder of how passionate they are about the work they do, about how important it is. And I would suggest that the work they do is about as clearly gospel-based, to be present with people that much of society says, "Ooh, no, not them." But how absolutely essential it is, how right it is, how healing it is. And we are just so grateful to have you here. And so without any further, I simply say thank you. We are grateful.
Thank you, Peter, Steve, Perry, welcome. Really glad you could take the time to come and visit with us this evening for the next 45 minutes. I met Perry probably 12 years ago in Summit Lake, where he spoke to a group that I was a member of. And I remember being struck at that time with his heart and his passion for the work that he does. And so I'm just so thrilled that you're able to come here today and share a little bit about Try.
Yes.
So let's start with that. Perry, do you want to lead us off here and tell us about Truly Reaching You and your mission?
The mission of Truly. First of all, thank you for having us here this evening. It's an honor to be able to come into God's house and share what we've been doing for nearly coming up on 25 years. So the mission of Truly Reaching You is transforming lives, rebuilding neighborhoods, and loving men who re-enter back into society. So Truly Reaching You, as I stated, coming up on 25 years, what we do is provide housing, workforce development, training to men re-enter back into the community from prison, loving them right where they're at. The small percentage that's not coming from prison is coming from residential treatment, substance abuse centers, and they have had, a greater amount of them have had convictions in their life. So,
Steve, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. Hit the bottom line first. We see lives transformed, people reunited, to parents, to children. There's tons of stories, and we'll share a couple of them. The bottom line stats, I'm a suburbanite, I'm a ex-businessman, I like stats. The government that we talk to likes stats. Foundations we talk to like stats. Only two of the almost 200 men now that have completed the program, only 2 have ever returned to prison. The next question becomes, how many don't complete the program? And so we've been tracking all of it, as well as recidivism, the rate to return to the inside. We don't say prison, we say inside. And so before we've been able, the past couple of years, we've been able to add some stuff, some real career development side. So they need life skills training first. There's men that we work with that started off in addiction at 12 years old, drop out of high school, maybe get a GED, and now they're 40, and they've spent 20 years of that 40 incarcerated. In and out, or one stint, it's kind of both, and they don't know anything about life. When you start using drugs or alcohol to abuse, your emotional development stops. Yes. So if they started at 12, you got a 40-year-old body with a 12-year-old emotion. And so our job in that training program, in that healthy support system, is to help them like we did our teenage kids, but in a fast track, get them from 12 to 20 in a year. And that's the challenge. Discipline, kind of like military discipline, is required, but that only goes so far. They need to catch a vision for a new life. They need to catch hope. And so last couple of years, we've been able to enhance our career development, and it's changed some numbers. So looking back now, before the career development strength, about 35% of the men stayed long enough to have a big impact on their lives, which is at least 4 months. If they'll stay 4 months, they'll make a huge impact on their lives. If they stay a year, they'll never go back. And so now with the new career development, we're seeing 50%, and it's just in its infancy of the career development. We're seeing 50% of the men stay at least 4 months. So it's lots of men, but we're like 25 men at a time.
Perry?
Yes, so what take place with them men is the fact that it's structure. We all have structure in our home. And many of these men don't know anything about structure because they never had it. Only structure they know is somebody turning the key, somebody telling them when they could go to the restroom or line up for child time. And that's the structure they have. So now they come here and there's structure. And many of them run from structure, but those who stay have success in their life, and they turn their life around. So you probably wonder, why do we do this? Why did Perry start this? And Perry started this because 26 years ago, I re-entered back into the community, born and raised in Akron, Ohio, graduated from Garfield High School, entered back into the community after 10 years of being on the inside. First time I've been on the inside, I come back into the community, and what is I'm gonna do? So when I was being paroled, I said, one of the things I want to do is be the best son I could be to my parents, the best father I could be to my 5 children, and the best neighbor I could be to my neighbors. I did not want to bring havoc upon anyone, nor the community I lived in. So Truly Reaching You was formed. How do I help those who understand where they was coming from? Because when I entered back into the community, it wasn't any help calling reentry. And so how can I help someone? So I knew 3 guys that left me in there, went home 3 different times, standing on a corner, and doing what led them to be in there 3 times and during my 10-year stint. So I said to him, I'll give you some work, but I don't want to smell no alcohol or no drugs. And so I gave them work. That was on a Thursday. I picked them up on the Monday. They was there. And I've been stuck ever since, now going on 25 years. And so my background was me doing 10 years of incarceration, breaking my parents' heart, and through that time, it woke me up to say that who I was. I know better. I live in a double life. I'm the youngest of 11 children. My parents would have thought I would have been never went, broke the law to get in trouble, but just living a double life, through that double life, keeping a job, always having a job, and to cover up my bad behavior, to keep my parents off my back, and no one knew what I was doing. But someone did know what I was doing, and I thank God that he knew what I was doing, because he set me down, and during that process, I learned that there was something greater for me to bring back to the community when they set me on the other side of the fence. And so today we have 6 houses, house up to 30 men. Right now we got 25 beds. We'll be opening the 6th house in a few weeks. And we have watched men transform their lives. And so that's why I say I've been stuck, but it's been a good stuck. I've been right where I believe I should be, and being able to help change our community and lives transform.
Thank you, Perry. So before you were on the inside, you were doing construction, correct?
Yes.
So when you came to the outside again, you picked right up with that construction.
I picked right up with construction. Well, I transferred from one institution to another because my security level dropped. So they take me to an institution that don't have no wire razor fence. And I've been behind wire razor fence at that time almost 7 years. So they take me down. I was down in Massville, and I'm there about 4 days, and they called me on the speaker to come down. And they said, we're going to start a program for you, and you're going to go out in community and rehab houses, and we're going to allow you to pick the first 9 men. And I looked at the unit manager, and I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, because I thought they was trying to set me up. And so when I said that, he said, well, I'm going to send you into Massville, and I've been at close security, so I didn't want to go back. And he said, I'm going to send you at Massville. I'm going to send you back to where you come from. I said, Mr. Dayhill, do what you got to do. So I got out, and he had told me to get out of his office. So I got up, and I turned to his door. And as I turned the knob, he said to me, what kind of Christian are you? And I looked at him, and I said, whoa. To myself, I said, whoa, what do you? I said, okay, Mr. Dayhill. At the same time, little man on my shoulder, speaking to us, a little devil. I said, Columbus ain't going to, I got to see the parole book. Columbus is not going to approve me to go out in the community. It was less than 10 days. He called me back to the office. He said, you could go pick your 9 men to go out in the community. I said to him, how you know I know anything about construction? He said, when you was down at London, you was hanging drywall and finishing it. And you had tools in your hand that was weapons, and you was out of place. And he said, when you was at Grafton, every morning the doors broke, and you was out there helping them build a greenhouse. You was out of place. And so when you're on the inside, you only think they put the negative things in your file. And I have some things in there that no one could even ever imagine, that I had in my file where they were saying. So they say, and that's all you do. Construction, so we're going to send you out. And in that 3.5 years, we did 11 houses in the city of Mansfield, rehab. So when I came home, yes, I continued. I went to work for a company for a year, saved money, bought tools, and then I went to work for myself. And that's why I could bring them 3 guys on.
And during your period of being on the inside, you had a wife and 5 kids.
Yes.
And they stuck by you.
Yes.
Amazing wife.
Yes, amazing wife, even funding Truly Reaching You. You heard Pastor Peter say, we funded for 10.5 years with the blessing of my wife. Before we ever applied for a grant, somebody sent us a check for 10.5 years. As I stated, we funded it, 4 mortgages during them 10.5 years. And Steve, I thought was crazy joining me, and I couldn't pay him, but.
This is a perfect handoff. Steve, so your story is interesting because you were in the business world, and you took the leap.
Yeah. So I grew up in northern Summit County, Northfield, went to college, got an engineering management degree, got married, 5 kids, corporate America, General Motors, General Electric for a few years, Nova Solutions, consulting work, internal consulting work. But all that time, I was part of a church plant in inner city Akron. Went with my parents when I was 17. And the only purpose of the plant was to feed and clothe and minister. At that time, we just said to the poor. We weren't even smart enough to say to people coming out of addiction, people coming out of prison. And over many years of that, I was in and out of the ministry because I was traveling a lot for business and helping raise my 5 kids. But it's this hunger, this passion started to grow in me. And one of the things I said, which is kind of a foolish thing to say to God, but I said it, if I'm going to work my butt off, can it be not for stockholders, but for your kingdom? I just knew that I wasn't called to stay in the business world. And in that, this passion started growing in me to walk alongside people. And I wasn't a saint in that. I kind of went kicking and screaming. And the only reason why I went was because there was a home builder in 2004 that was building about 150 homes a year, was a brother in the Lord, and he had a similar passion. And he eventually, after about a year of a friendship, hired me and said, if you'll take an entry-level job and learn my business in home building, I'll have you help me run the company, and we'll go after this vision. If you take a 20% pay cut. I thought I was a saint. I really did. That was how naive I was. But 2 years later, year and 9 months later, the home building industry goes belly up. I'm unemployed for the first time in my life. December 29th of 2006, became unemployed. God, you were leading me into this vision, it seemed like. You put the passion in my heart, not me. Do I go back to corporate America? Do I stay in the mission field? I started a seminary degree, started working on that, completed that over a number of years, but at the same time, within 9 months, met Perry Clark, which is a story on its own of how we met. But it was, I was doing a lot of consulting work, a lot of internal consulting work, so I worked for GE, but was consulting, traveling across the United States, helping people work together. So that was part of the passion. God, how do I take the skills that I learned in the business world and put them to use for your kingdom?
Thank you. And it's gone well ever since. You've been a team.
Yes.
Along with 20 other people that are working with you.
Yes.
Right, in this mission.
But we can go back and say, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, I think it was 7 years, there was just 4 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, God just
The first
grew
couple
that.
years, it was just none of us paid.
Yes. Yeah.
So you talked about having houses, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the process, right? How does a person who's on the inside find out about Tri, and how do you engage that person, and then what happens? Because I remember one of the things you shared with me is men are released, they walk outside the gate with only what they went in with, and many times there's nobody there, right? They are by themselves
Yes.
with nothing.
Yes.
Perry, let me start this one, Perry.
Yes, go ahead,
Because
Steve.
the reason why I'm asking Perry, let me start, is that Perry trained me years ago how to do some of the initial interviews of men. So I get to see all the men firsthand now, and Perry needs to do other things. But it's more than what you just said. Because by the time we've become known in the state institutions, most of the judges in Akron, detox facilities, addiction treatment facilities, as the place, if you want to work hard to change your life, they'll make it happen for you. If you just want a bed to sleep for a few nights or a month, go somewhere else. And so we're known as structure, but we're also known as a place where you'll have a beautiful home. If you want hard work, it'll work. And so the men, when they want to work hard, when they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, most have burned every bridge that they have. Not only do they only have the clothing on their back, everybody they know, at that point, everybody they know in Akron, Summit County, Cleveland, wherever they're from, are only people that will take them back into addiction and crime. So they're friendless, clothingless, penniless. They're hopeless, absolutely. Completely hopeless. And just hearing about Tri they hear from their chaplains, they hear from reentry workers, they hear from each other. We do reentry fairs. Perry and Rick go inside and do reentry fairs. They hear about us there. So it's been in the last 6 months get invited to a reentry fair. And so we set up a booth and just talk to men. And so they start reaching out to us. We had a former participant yesterday bring us a guy who started an addiction at 12, 14 straight years, 2 years inside, 4 years on probation, and he's never known life as after 12 without being high.
Thanks, Steve. So, Perry, the man says yes.
The man said yes.
And what happens?
So we'll go in, and we typically do 2 interviews, Steve and Rick as Steve, and then if it's, I get the summary notes and I look over them, and do I need to go in? Sometimes I have to go in because I need to look at him in his eyes, and we'll say yes. If we, very rarely do we say no, they have to say something for example, for us not to accept a man, he have to tell me, if I go in the store with you, Perry, I'm not going to tell you I won't steal. Oh, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, therefore, I turn him down.
Right.
I get back to the office, send an email out, and we'll turn him down because I'm not going down with you. So, they come to us, and we pick them up. We go to the institution, pick them up, bring them to us, do the paperwork, and we have to take them shopping. We take them out and buy them 5 to 6 work outfits, 5 to 6 casual outfits, a pair of work boots, all the undergarments, a pair of tennis shoes, and a pair of casual shoes, because we are a faith-based organization, so you are required to 3 Bible studies a week, go to church on Sunday. And so we embrace them. Wintertime coming now, just last week, I just went and picked up 40 hoodies, and we got coats on order, winter coats, because we have to provide all their needs. And then we do all their toiletry items, and they come to us and they need nothing. And many men is really surprised about 2 things. You really bought this for me? And I had never imagined this house would look like this. Well, we went in with the ideal, my wife and I, what if something happened to our home and we had to live here? Forget the street. It's on. What if we had to live in this home? So every home is set up in a family atmosphere. 3 bedrooms, 3 men, 5 bedrooms, 5 men. And, the common area. And so we typically, if someone have opiates, we typically don't put 2 men in the house if we can who have opiate addiction. We separate. We won't, because we don't want them to have that conversation about or whatever their vices was. So we many times we don't think about what someone, unless you experienced it or you had a family member, a loved one, or a neighbor, realize that a man come out, he only have what's on his back. And so that started, I was fortunate to have loved ones and family, to turn to, and then had things to go through, come home to, where many don't have that to come home to.
So what's a day look like for one of the men?
A day looked like, so every appointment, a day looked like. They get picked up at 7 o'clock in the morning, brought to the training hub. From the training hub, they meet their leaders. We have 5 line crew leaders. We have a construction crew leader. We have a commercial cleaning crew. So everyone meet there at the training hub, and they get assigned to their leader of what they're going to be doing and where they're going to be going, and get in the van and they go. And if one of them got an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have a driver who will transport him to his appointment. And then after his appointment, he'll take him to his training site, wherever it's at, his training site. And then he may have to run over to another one because he got an appointment at 1 o'clock to see his parole officer, go pick him up, and that driver will take him and wait, and then take him back to his training site. Like you and I, well, you retired, but but like if I go to the doctor after I leave my appointment, I gotta go back to work. Yeah. And we treat the men the same way. We require them to get up in the morning, they bring their lunch. If they don't bring their lunch, they hear about it. So they'll work to 3:30, 4 o'clock, take them back home, the drivers, or take them home, and on a Monday, they got a rap session. All the men come together in all the houses at the office, and they have a rap session, talk about the weekend, talk about their work day, and any other problems you have. On Tuesday, there's a freedom class that Steve leads, which is a Bible study, and they'll do that Bible study on Tuesday. On Wednesday,
Every day's the same from 7 to 3:30, and then Perry's talking about evening stuff.
Yeah. Then on Wednesday, they're off on Wednesday and Thursday. Friday, they go to addiction meeting. Now, in between that, all the time, I said doctor or I said parole, they may have to go to a counseling. The parole officer or the courts may have them going to mental health counseling, and they have to go. We take them to all their appointments and pick them up. We don't believe in giving them a bus pass. We want to walk beside them every step of the way.
And so there's not a typical, I have 2 questions. I'm going to ask a different one first. The crew leaders, some of them I understand are former.
Yes, we love hiring their former participants.
Yes.
Came through the program. We love hiring. We learned this a few years ago. If we can hire within, we have a greater chance of them sticking around longer as an employee, meaning participants stick around because that crew leader. So you hire someone who don't understand where they're coming from. We done had employees look down on men because they had an addiction or because they've been on the inside. Where the hiring within, they don't look down because they've been there and they understand, like I understand where they come from.
Right.
So that's made a huge difference.
Thank you. That leads right into the other question I was going to ask, whereas when a client of your or participant would typically take 3 months, 5 months, but you'll stick with them, I understand, and
Yes.
for as long as you want or they want.
Yes.
The longer they've been on the inside, the longer it's going to take. If they don't have a GED or high school diploma, it's going to take longer. For success, we see it take 9 to 14 months.
And you stick with them.
We stick with them.
And they're housed during that time period. And
The thing that progresses, they go from the first days, the first month with us, they really have no independence. They're always with a staff member or a participant that's not in that first month. Then they get some more independence. So after about 3 months, if they have a GED or a high school diploma, they can get a job outside, try. But then we add in teaching them how to manage money, being accountable to paying debts, to get driver's license reinstatement, getting their license, saving money. All of that accountability is then built in. So they're doing the Bible studies and they're living in the house and doing all the chores. They're just not doing the training program. They're going to work instead.
But they are doing 15 hours a month community service, giving back to the community, and we pick where they're going to do their community service at.
Wow. I didn't know that part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's pay it forward.
Right.
Is what we tell
So when the guys or the men are in the program, are they paid?
Paid. You just hurt my feelings. No, they're not paid. What it is, yes, they are paid. Just remember I talked about them 10 to 12 outfits, them work
Yes.
boots, that winter coat, them long johns, all the
Okay.
tortory items. And then after the first 30 days, we give them a stipend because we also, every week, I've never been a smoker of tobacco, but every week we buy tobacco and we have rolling machines in all the houses and we buy the filters for them. But they get after 30 days, they get a $20 stipend, and some of them just want to go buy what they call a tailor-made, a pack of cigarettes. I say, you want to get them $7 of your 20, wow.
$10 now.
Oh, $10, yes. But yeah, no, they don't. That's what we do. And what we do as they move forward, we will match them. Like they got court costs for getting their driver's license. I may challenge them. Okay, you owe $500 and you save $100, I'll put $100. Try to put $100 with it, match them on paying their fines off. If we've been really blessed with the Akron courts on driver's license as well as the Barberton courts, waiving their fine fees once they, knowing that they're in TRICE program.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that the men are looked down on and have that feeling of people judging them.
Yes.
So they go through your program, they're feeling good about themselves, they've got some skills, they've got some money management skills. There's still that attitude out there with employers, right?
Yes.
How do you help your participants manage that?
So one of the things that we've been able to do is some of the same companies that I went to 7-8 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, and shared with why they should hire men come to our program. And they wasn't interested. And today, over the years, I guess maybe they thought that we weren't going to be around. I didn't even know we was going to be around, but God could call me to do something else, right? But now they call us and they ask us. They'll call Steve in particular and say, "Do you got a guy? We need a guy." So we have numerous companies call, and we vet them companies because we just don't want to send our guys to any place to work. We want them to be loved just like we love them.
Right.
The economy is definitely helpful. All these employers are begging for employees now.
Yeah.
And so, they're taking guys, they're giving guys a second chance, and they've come to know that the guys that come from us are some of the hardest workers they've ever seen. When you're down and you're out, you're desperate, and you're starting to rebuild life, you're hungry. You're hungry, and they're hungry to work hard. And they'll be the guys on the factory floor, the other guys are telling them to slow down.
All right. So one of the things that I'm hoping you'll be willing to share, I'd be interested in hearing anyway, a story or two about a couple of the participants
Oh yeah.
that kind of...
So about 4 or 5 months ago, I got an email, looking at emails early in the morning, and it was from a past participant who had did nearly 8 years, and he's been home 2 years. And he says, "My story for Tri." And he talks about not having no family. We are his family. Now he have a church home, so he said the church is his family. Family want nothing to do with him. Okay, so he have adopted, but in this letter, this email he sent me, he talked about how he didn't know where he was going after 8 years. He didn't know where, and he was accepted into TRI's program. And coming up there, he learned how to work, being in TRI's program. He talked about the clothes that we gave him and all the items that we gave him when he first came that he had no idea was going to take place, and the nice home he had to live in. And we taught, and how we taught him, staff taught him how to drive because he never drove, been in his 30s and early 30s and never drove. So he got his driver's license, bought a car. But the greatest thing of all, August 31st, he signed the closed on his house that TRI was able to sell him.
Oh, so he bought one of your houses?
Yes, he bought, yes. And so is that, and I was, yesterday he called me and said, when you gonna stop by and see me? I said, why? I just was at your house 2 weeks ago. I'm not gonna I don't have time, I gotta work, I know, but I just miss you. I said, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's great.
A second gentleman now who is a senior manager on our staff, Rick goes back quite a few years with us now. 2000, end of 14, December of 14, we hired him. But Rick was 46 years old when he finally decided to surrender to God. 46 years, four numbers, four prison numbers, in and out of addiction. Had come to try once. And Perry loves to tease him that you're the reason why you're not allowed to anybody's not allowed to get employed for 90 days.
It is.
Outside the program, because back then that rule didn't exist, and he got a job after 30 days, and Perry held to his word and helped him get a job, and at the same time asked him not to take it. He took it, and after the first paycheck he disappeared and was back in drugs. That's the reason why it's important for us to give them an environment where they don't have to work, they don't need to manage money. Money's too big of a temptation to go back. And so he spent about a year away from us, and he tells us now that he knows, by the way, he's also a licensed chemical dependency counselor now, and got his associate and bachelor's and then became licensed. And he walked that since with us. But he knows that when you go back to addiction, after walking away from it, you start at your lowest and you go lower fast. And so he walked into that, scared himself, went to the Salvation Army program before coming back to us. And we saw him walking down the street on a Sunday. Perry did first, and then I did after. And we asked him where he was going. And he said, I'm going to my church. Well, what's your church? The church you guys introduced me to. That's my church. Yeah. And so he started meeting with the pastor, came back and finished our program a second time while he started his degree, completed it. Then we hired him. And then he just kept on going. Now he's a senior manager. And he's a homeowner, bought another house from TRI.
So that's a great story.
Real critical part of that is he had two sons. Yes. The oldest one wanted nothing to do with him because experienced too much of the pain. Did not want to risk again. The younger one didn't know much about that pain because it was pretty young. The younger one embraced him pretty quickly. And Perry and I, mostly Perry, because Perry experienced it more than me, but he'll come to us for parenting advice and how do I be patient and let my older son embrace me in his time. And now he's got a phenomenal relationship with both of his sons. Weekend. The older one's living with him right now. So
great. Kind of completed that circle for him. Yeah. So the houses that the gentleman bought, so you buy old houses.
Buy, or someone want to donate one.
Okay. Even better, right? Okay.
Even better, yeah. Right. I don't want to put that word buy first. I want to put donate.
Donate. Yes. All right. And then that'll be a training ground then.
That'll be a training ground. Then it also opened the doors for us to apply for grants to help rehab that house. And we do total rehab because it become a training ground for us.
So you design that house for participants to live in, yes?
Yes, we do that if that house is for participant. So the difference is, if a house that we know we're going to sell, we know we're going to sell it and never be a participant living in it. We know that.
Okay.
We're looking now, Steve don't even know this, but I'm got to look at a house tomorrow that we may purchase, and it's a very nice neighborhood. So
Okay.
I got a call. But.
So I had an opportunity this summer to visit a house that Family Promise was hoping to use for a family,
And they found a family.
right? And when I was there, you were there, and I was surprised. So talk about that partnership.
So that partnership, Thrive to Survive, with Family Promise is a new program they started. And they have purchased this house from the Summit County Land Bank. And we have done other work for them. And so that relationship just have continued to grow in the last 7 years. And so they want to start doing houses. So this house was in bad shape. But we went in and rehabbed it, got it used as a training program with the men. And we like to ask the men, what do you think this house should do? And many times they'll say it need to be torn down. But once they see the progressive take place, they start boasting about what they done. I did this, I did that. And I said, but didn't you tell me you should be torn down? But yeah, so we go in and examine the house for them. I do look at the structure of it. Is it worth it? Give them an idea of what it's going to cost to put it back together. And so,
I mean, it's a great partnership
yes.
with another organization that's also doing good work in
Yes.
helping the homeless.
Helping homeless.
Right.
Yeah, it is. And I just learned last week, Friday, that they found a family, and the family will be moving in the end of the month.
So is this something you think might happen again?
They're looking for a house now. Yeah,
Okay.
another house now. And there's another, I don't know if we ever shared with you, a Luther Metropolitan Ministries up in Cleveland. We have done that nonprofit, largest homeless shelter organization in the state of Ohio. And they're doing very similar to Family Promise is doing. So we did 2 houses for them last year and 2 this year for them. And just spoke with them the other day, and they said they have 5 if we could get them done by December of next year.
Wow. So you drive your participants to Cleveland?
Yes.
Wow.
And it will do it if it's an hour, no further than an hour.
Right. Right. So one of the things that struck me that I have to admit, I never thought about people who are incarcerated, people who are in the inside, who then come out. I've never had to think about that. I grew up in a family where I wasn't exposed to that, or never thought about it. I lived in the community that wasn't part of my life. And so, but when I met with you, and Steve Hawkstra was with me, we met with you, one of the things that struck me was like, when you were talking, I was like, this is the first time in my 65 years that I've considered the plight of someone who's been on the inside and all of a sudden faces the outside. Can you reflect on that a little bit?
Yeah. At times, Darren, it still have pain for me, even though I've been on this side of the fence for 26 years, almost 26 and a half years, and it's still pain. And I think one of the why it's still pain is those who I left behind. Those who I left behind, who I still, got 45, 50 years in. And when I was at an institution last week and I had an opportunity to talk to them, and they said to me, they encourages me, you give us hope, Harry, because you went home and you never came back, and we hear about all the great work you're doing out there all the time, so you give us hope. Don't worry about it. We'll be all right. The door going to open for us soon. That's one side of it. Then then the other side of it is, in general, the population, as you did not know, as you stated, that always will look down on those who have been on the inside, because they don't understand. If they never had no one, a loved one, family, a neighbor, a friend, so that keep fear in a man. Steve often tell me, I don't have it because, what do you always say? Oh, you're not the normal guy. That's what he tell me. You're not normal. But I have that pain of love, because I know so many that could come back to the community and be changed forever, would never go back, The other side of it, when I began Truly Reaching You, I was meeting with a gentleman, and he told me, was having lunch, and he told me, you don't look like someone ever been to prison. I said, what do you mean, on the inside? Because I don't use the word prison, I use the word on the inside. He said, yeah, you don't look like somebody been on the inside. I said, what do you mean what I don't look like? And he said, well, you don't talk like. I said, well, let me share something with you. If you don't have the resources and you run a child over because you was out drinking, you can end up on the inside. And he looked at me, he said, well, I never thought about it that way.
Right.
And I said, oh, okay. But it's just the truth of the matter. We just don't know. But yeah, there it is. It's Steve, I had to really, Steve was talking, I really had to catch myself because I started to tear up, and I'm like, I don't want to do that in front of any people. Because that's the truth of the matter, I still have. And even though it's been 26 years, I still, So when a man come to me and he said that I asked him, why you got 5 numbers? I know a guy got 9. I talked to a couple last week, 2 weeks ago, and said don't affect them. I'm saying something wrong with you. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong with you. Because I got 26 years and it's still,
Right.
affect me.
So when we're speaking with foundations, when he starts to cry, it's my job to talk.
Yeah. So true.
So that's a perfect segue, Steve, for the question I want to ask you. The organization doesn't run on wishes and prayers and promises. And so can you talk about how people can support the work that TRI is doing? Go, Steve, you can start, and Perry, you can chip in on this.
Sure. I think because we can go into a lot of detail, let me kind of summarize it, and then we'll hit some descriptions of each. We always need volunteers. We're looking for couple staff people. We need staff remodelers, people who have a remodeling background. We're looking, we have special events. That's a different type of volunteer than the first one. And we could always use donations. And then the last one is we do lawn care, we do construction, we do lawn care up in Hudson. I have a crew that's up here every Friday mowing lawns. Consider us for your lawn care service next year. For your home, the church, anything. So we also do commercial cleaning. So there's volunteers buying our services. Instead of paying a landscaping company, we could be your landscaping company. We have 5 crews out every day of the week doing landscaping. Mulch, fall cleanups.
Yeah, one of the things I would ask for, because when God gave me this mission, and I struggled for a year. This started in January 1999, and this was in 98. And I said, God, that ain't what I want to do. I'm running my own company. I'm content. I like changing stuff, going into a kitchen and tearing it out and making it beautiful, or building an addition, and kept on prepping my heart. And so I had to surrender and do what God has called me to do. And I thank God that I was obedient. But when he gave me the vision, it was bringing caring and concerned Christians and churches together to help those who re-enter back into the community. And I would ask you to pray for Tri, because that's been one of the toughest challenges, is this, to have that come along in churches, to be embraced by churches. You know, I used to take a van when we was doing my brother Gary's community house. That Sunday I would pick up a van and take a man three times a month to a different church. And I could feel some churches we wasn't welcome in, and I could feel it, you know, because they knew who I was, but they didn't embrace the men that I was bringing. And there were some churches in the city and I said, okay. But so that's one of my biggest challenges is, and I said at the beginning of the year, crying out to God, this is what I'm looking to do, is to bring churches on to be of help to the mission that He's given me.
My dad is 87, and until he was 81, he was a volunteer driver for Tri. We pay a full-time driver to drive the men to all their personal appointments, to pick them up at 7 o'clock and drive them to the training day. Then the crew leaders drive out from there. But we have a full-time driver. We really can't afford a second full-time driver. I need a team of volunteers that might be just 3 hours a week, driving two guys, one guy to a dentist and one guy to a parole officer appointment. We have the vehicles. You don't have to drive your own vehicle. We have a Honda CR-V and a full-size van and Ford Transit. You can drive our vehicles. I need volunteer drivers.
Good, thanks. So this is the last question. We're already at the time limit. So Perry, just what do you want to make sure when people leave this evening from the sanctuary or those who are online, what do you want to be in our hearts and in our minds about Tri?
I would say I would want you, as I stated, to pray for us, to love Tri just as Jesus has loved us. And with that, we have to continue this work, we have to continue to build relationships, because as we continue this growth, it's going to take more resources. It's, you know, Steve just spoke about the vehicles we have, and I know we are already two vans short, because when you look about the age of vehicles, you have to replace them. And I can remember the very first time, we going back 15 years, of the very first van that I didn't have to put in my name. I put it in Tri's name. Yeah. You know, because everything, you know, and that vehicle was getting ready, about time to be replaced. So I always try to look down the road for us. Then I shared with Steve, this is what I'm seeing. You know, God has given me a vision, and so I think that's, and going forward to what Steve said, volunteers is always welcome, always needed. We're going to open up the 6th house, and we think about the items that God go in that house. You know, make me think about what I talked about, the clothing, but then you talk about the bed linens. Every man come in, get two sets of bed linens, 2 sets of bath towels, 2 sets, you know, and that's so easy to take for granted because we just go in our linen closet and get it out, right? and we don't think about that, you know. And I can remember my wife saying, "Wow, this is you're gonna have to find another way. Charity starts at home. You're gonna have to start another way." And asking, applying for grants when we had never applied for grants, and I said, "We'll do that." But I thank God for her because she's been there from the beginning. And one thing she did require me to do, because I had 2 jobs. I had my company for profit, and I was doing try when I got off work at 4 o'clock, loving on men and reaching out to them. And Gary knows this. And she said, you got to let one of them jobs go. She said, or you going to be in I'm going to put you in a nursing home because I got to go to work, or you gonna stroke out. I said, what? She said, I'm telling you. And she was an RN, so you listen to the nurse, right? So that's where I'm at with the help that we could use.
Well, thank you. Thanks for spending time this evening with us. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your personal stories that brought you to Try. We really appreciate it. We're going to have questions in Fellowship Hall. So if you want to talk with Perry and Steve, they'll be there. And we welcome anyone to please stick around, have a refreshment, and talk with our guests. So again, thank you very much for everything.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.